And it's infuriating. I try to stay impartial in all the episodes we do on this podcast, as any professional attorney would. But even professional journals are calling the implications of the Supreme Court's decision horrible, an example of horrific judicial activism. Some even calling for the impeachment of Supreme Court justices that okayed this horrible, horrible decision. For example, we have the BMJ, who describes how 28 states already have trigger bans ready, meaning more than half of the United States would make abortions outright illegal, with an entire group of citizens, every woman in all of these states, losing something that up until a couple weeks ago was a right that they never believed in a million years they would ever lose. And that's just one example. We have the American Journal of Bioethics, which goes further into detail how this example of judicial activism with Supreme Justice Thomas pushing an agenda that strays away from popular opinion, something that is almost never done, especially at the level of the Supreme Court. The rage that it fills within me is something that I can't even put into words, which is something that I don't feel very, very often. This is something that everybody, whether they live in a trigger ban state or not, is going to feel the impacts of. The New England Journal of Medicine describes how medical centers nationwide are scrambling to now avoid lawsuits, especially those that live in states that already have bans set in place. Even medical centers in states that don't have a ban are preparing for the worst and already ceasing any abortions that they had previously scheduled. The Lancet shows how this impacts groups that already struggle with so much. Vulnerable minority groups, Black, Hispanic, low income. These are the people that will be hurt by this overruling the hardest. People that have never struggled with financial or social difficulties will hardly feel the implications of this once it's been set into effect by every state in the United States. It is as the popular majority is saying: those who already have access to abortions will not lose the access to these abortions. However, it is those that depend on the government to receive this fundamental healthcare right that will arguably be losing out on the most here. The JAMA Network, another popular medical journal, relates the Supreme Court's decision to another precedent that has already been passed in Texas, Texas Abortion Law SB 8, which charges a $10,000 lawsuit per abortion for anybody who's caught giving an abortion that they arguably do not need. And the phrasing of both the Supreme Court's decision and even decisions here in Texas is arguably what gets people the most upset. Using words that are so vague, that give such power over people who decide that, oh, this person doesn't deserve to have an abortion, this person doesn't need this essential right. These people now have power over those people who simply want to exercise a fundamental right that, once again, they had simply weeks, days even before the Supreme Court ruling. We try to shed light on some of the most horrible court proceedings that have taken place in U.S. history on this podcast, and it terrifies me that one of the most horrible is something that we are all going to get to live through. This is a moment in history that we have lived through, something that we have experienced, and frankly, it's beyond upsetting.